Hi, and welcome back to the Mortgage Broker broadcast. My guest this week is Fiona Conway of Fiona Conway Associates. Fiona's on the podcast because 9 years ago, she changed the whole direction of her career. She was in the West Yorkshire Police as a case progression officer, saw that the skills that she had were transferable into another career, saw that she loved property so much, and really sort of put those two together and became mortgage broker. She was very lucky that there was a firm local to her at the time that was taking on trainee employed mortgage broker, grasped it with both hands, and obviously put a 110% commitment into doing that. And then 3 years ago, she set up Fiona Conway Associates. So getting Fiona onto the podcast, hearing about her journey, hearing about being a business owner, and more recently as well, she's now got her own podcast, which I'm excited to hear all about that too. So yeah, let's get Fiona onto the podcast. So welcome to the podcast, Fiona. How are you?
I'm really well, thank you. Thanks for having me.
No, thank you for agreeing to being on the podcast. You are a very mortgage broker, business owner, and fellow podcaster. So I
I
know how
know.
good you are.
I know, a glutton for punishment, I think. I don't know how it's ended up like that, but yes, it's very exciting as well, though.
No, it is, and I'm like loving like. We had a quick chat before before we started to record, looking at your podcast, listening to your podcast, seeing where that goes, which I'm so excited about hearing all about that today and how that started and things like that. So yeah, it's good to be. I'm guessing I'm gonna do this right. I did it wrong before, didn't I? It's good to be on that side of the podcast. It's easier over there than it is sat in this seat.
Well, we'll see. We'll see. I'll let you know when we've done.
I think that's it. We'll talk, like I said, we will see and we will talk about it because I think there is more and more, which is great news, more and more mortgage brokers looking at doing podcasting. And I wanted to get your viewpoints on that as well. But first of all, for those people that don't know who you are, do you want to just sort of give a background into Fiona Conway's way into financial services, bit background about you and where you are and what you're doing currently?
Yeah, sure. So when I was at school, I didn't have a clue what I wanted to do. Not a clue. Ended up going to university because my friends did, really, and it was kind of expected of me. So sort of fell into University of Liverpool. Came out of uni and I had a very strong idea of what I like to do, which is help people, really. Found a job in the newspaper at the time, showing my age. Found a job in the newspaper for West Yorkshire Police, helping witnesses in court. So I started off doing that, which I really enjoyed. And then I progressed to a case progression officer, which is basically doing some legal exams and compiling files for court. So I thought, well, I'm quite methodical. I like compiling the files, going out and taking statements, helping vulnerable people. I liked helping witnesses in court, going through a difficult time and trying to support them. And during this process, I went to see a mortgage broker to buy my first house. Had a really strong interest in property. I always used to watch property programs with mum and dad when I was a kid. And I thought, do you know what? What I do every single day in my role is very transferable to this industry. And I thought, I got to a point where in the police they were making redundancies. You know, we had to take pay cuts. I work really hard. I always have. And that didn't sit right with me. And I thought, well, in the financial services, you're rewarded for how hard you work. And I thought, this is my routine. Problem was, I wasn't qualified to work in financial services, never done a job in financial services. And I found a company who would take me on as a trainee. Okay. And I took quite a big pay cut, actually, at the time. Trained up in 4 months. And started advising, and I was there for 6 years, very happy years. But just got to a point where I decided that I had the confidence, I knew how to be a mortgage broker, and I wanted to take the next step into doing it myself, running my own business.
Wow. You've seen quite a few people, like you're saying, I see quite a few people that realised that there is transferable skills. But
Mm.
case progression officer in West Yorkshire Police to then employed a mortgage and insurance consultant. So it's quite a different leap of being brave, shall we say?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was a leap, and I think what I've realised is I am quite a brave person, because going from that leap and then the leap into running a business, all on my own. But that's what I thrive on. I get excited about the challenges. So yeah, it's been a bit of a crazy time really running up to this period. But I think you learn life skills along the way, don't you? And I realised a lot of the work I was doing in the base is actually very similar to what I do now. Helping people. Preparing files, which is what I do now, all the compliance that we have to do. It's very, very similar role, really.
Yeah. Like I say, obviously you was in it, so you saw the similarities, admin, all the rest of it, all the joys of being a mortgage broker behind the scenes that clients don't see. So, I think it just, and as well, like you said, the love of property, it just seemed a natural thing for you to do. When you first got into broking, being a mortgage broker, I say you was lucky enough that a firm took you on as a trainee, which is great because there's not many firms that do that. Was you employed at that time, self-employed? How did that work?
Yeah, so I was an employed broker under the company.
Wow.
We didn't really discuss.
Even more golden nugget. Like, you just don't get those anymore.
I know. I was really lucky, and to be honest with you, I had been for a couple of interviews at much, much, much larger companies, and all I was told was, "You haven't got sales experience. You're not a salesperson." And I was like, "Well, hang on a second. I'm dealing with vulnerable people every single day and trying to help them. It's there's an advice element there that you're missing. Building up rapport with people." Helping people through a difficult journey. That's what I think advising is all about, and being a mortgage broker.
No, it certainly is. And I think, like you said, being methodical and piecing it all together, you've got to be. It's not a quick fix, is it? So, being a mortgage broker, when you're doing your training and when you're first starting out in your courses, I've talked about before, where everybody's a first-time buyer, everybody's got 25% deposit, everybody's straightforward, and then you get into the real world and the CCJs, bad credit, all the rest of it, self-employment, all the other things are thrown at you. So you've then got to be methodical, because it isn't a case of, I think that's one thing that does frustrate me with the mortgage broking world, is that people aren't methodical and don't go through the whole process for a client and trying to find them a resolution to the problem. They just go for the quick fix, or, well, they don't fit with the high street lenders, I can't be bothered with anything else, and move on to the next one, kind of thing, where you've got to be methodical as a mortgage broker.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I'm very sort of process driven. There's got to be a process in place. Clients need to know what's happening next. I've bought quite a few houses now, and it's extremely stressful. Even as a mortgage broker, I know what's happening next. It's still stressful. And I think you must have a process in place so that, your clients know what's going to happen next as well. I'm very open with them right from the start what our 10-step process is and when they should expect to hear from us again. And I think that's been drilled into me right from my early 20s, working with vulnerable people. You can't just leave them hanging. You've got to tell them something, and you need a process in place so you know what to tell them and when to tell them, I think.
Well, exactly, that's it. Like, you can see the mortgage brokers who don't have a process, who are not organised in that kind of way. And I'm like you, very process driven. There's a process for everything, and just follow it. Especially when you was a trainee, like, sort of going back then. But having a process in place will help the transition a lot more for you, because then it's not only the client knowing what the process is, you know what the process is, so you know what the next step is, and the next step in. I'm smiling because I'm loving the fact that you've got a 10-step kind of thing, because that is something that I've used in the past and still continues to use now, because The clients just know then, don't they? They know what's happening next. You don't, like, if they understand what the process is and what 1 to 10 looks like. Yes, 1 is today, 10 is you get the keys and you move in, then and everything in between. It's just good that there's that transparency there for you and your clients that they and you it hold, having a process and a clear, transparent process holds you accountable as well, doesn't it?
I completely agree with you. Yes, it does. Yeah, when you're saying to clients, you're going to hear from me at this point, you must do it because they've probably had a sleepless night the night before. They're sat waiting with the phone next to them. They don't want to leave the room in case the phone rings. I know how that feels. You're all worked up waiting for this call and then you don't get it. Well, it's disappointing. People don't want to feel like they're not important either. And, you need to make people feel important. They're your clients, they are important. And this is a big thing that they're going through. I think sometimes we can forget that. We can forget because we do it every single day that, this is a huge deal for these clients. And it might be only something they've done once in their life or not done at all. It's a big deal. It's a big deal.
Absolutely. It is. You're absolutely right with that. I think as a mortgage broker, you can sometimes forget how life-changing this is for clients. So you going, like, following your process and making sure you've gone to as much as you possibly can to sort out their situation, given their situation. And they're the clients, you go that extra mile for them. You get that mortgage, you get that home for them that they didn't think they were going to be able to get, or somebody's told them no, or before, and 3 of the brokers have said not a chance. And then you do it and you achieve it by having the persistence and the drive that you've got. You've got a client for life then, haven't you? You're going to have to do something to force that client to move to not use you anymore.
Yeah, I think so. You have to prove yourself right from the word go. People are looking for someone who is going to make them feel important and special. And even though we are busy and we're dealing with so many clients, you need to make clients feel like, they're your only one, really. Give them the time that they need. Absolutely. And I think if you nurture people right from the start, hopefully they'll think very highly of you and always then want to come back. And if you've got a process in place to try and remind them that you're here, because you might not speak to them again for 5 years in some cases, and you have a process in place to keep saying, hi, I'm still here, I'm still your mortgage broker, they shouldn't go anywhere else.
I think the funny thing is like we're talking about processes, and I'm big on process, but the one thing I don't have a process for is the agenda on the podcast, because you just can't have an agenda when you record a podcast. Because the thing is, we're going to talk about we're going to talk about the transition from being like the trainee to mortgage broker to then owning your own business, which we're going to come on to. But then it's just, you always pick up on little things that end up going on a different. And if you wouldn't have the agenda too much, we wouldn't be talking about the things we're talking about right now. So it is so funny that everything we talk about is process, but it's actually not having a process on something like this. It's quite good, because you're just more worried. You then concentrate on the conversation rather than what bit of the agenda am I on now, kind of thing. What do I do? It just doesn't work.
Yeah, a conversation has to flow, doesn't it? Or it doesn't sound great.
Definitely not. We'll come on to get. I will ask you about your opinion on that when we talk about your podcast. So yeah, obviously had the transition from going into mortgage broking, and then just over 3 years ago, you decide. What was going through your head 3 years ago? Well, obviously a little bit more than 3 years ago.
Yeah, I think I got to the point with the company that I worked for where I felt that I'd been nurtured, I'd been looked after, I'd been trained really well to get to a point where I felt that I was a good mortgage broker. But I just wanted something a bit more. I wanted to work the way that I wanted to work. I wanted my own process in place that I felt would suit me and the clients a little better. There were just certain things where I just thought, this is my time now. And I looked at the director of the company and I was like, oh gosh, I like your lifestyle. I like what you're doing. I like the fact that you can make your decisions. And I wanted to make the decisions. That's all it was. It just got to a point where I was like, right, I want to be in control of this now and the destiny of a company. And that's literally why I did it. It was a hard decision because I was really happy there, loved the people I work with, but I was just starting to feel like, okay, I'm really ready to grow here. This is my opportunity. And yeah, that's why I did it.
So the second step of being brave, first of all, life-changing career, and then the next jump of, and I mean that jump probably not the right word, but being brave and jumping then to being business owner. So, and I think they say it's a natural progression for you and for what, knowing like what you're looking to achieve, what you're looking to do. I think, I don't know, my point was sort of freedom. I think that was the thing, Fiona. Clearly, I knew that I worked for a large corporate for far too long. And don't get me wrong, I loved, like, there was so much good things about working for a large corporate, but I just didn't have the freedom. And I think one thing that it's funny, I've come up in a conversation this morning with one of the brokers where it's being self-employed, having your own firm or working as part of a firm or having your own brand, you've got the freedom, but also it creates insecurity, but then gives you security at the same time that it's down to you. So like, I don't know, obviously I always knew that in the back of my mind that people, you could see people getting made redundant, people losing their jobs, losing their roles, whereas doing what you do now, nobody, it's down to you, and your destiny is in your own hands right now.
That's exactly it. That's exactly it. I felt like I was getting a little frustrated with some of the things that I had to do as a mortgage broker when I was employed. And I thought to myself, I can continue to feel a little frustrated with a couple of these processes, or I can actually do something about it. And I can actually take control and do things my way,
Yeah.
And yeah, it is a leap. It is a leap. And like I say, I was very happy there, but this is something completely different, and this suits me much better. Running a business is what I want to do.
Good. I think that's it. Is it something you've always had in the back of your mind that you wanted to run your own business at some stage?
I feel like the answer should be yes, but it's not. I feel like I should say yes.
No, you don't say yes because I wasn't. I didn't have that in my mind. I
No.
wasn't a long-term thing. So you can be honest, Fiona. It's fine. Honestly, you can sort of say how it is.
No, it really was a natural progression. I think over the space of a year, 18 months, I just started to think about it more and more. And I came to the conclusion that it's what I wanted to do. It's definitely not something that I was thinking of doing, 10 years ago, or even when I joined the industry. It's something that just naturally progressed to the point where I was just like a giddy child. I was like, I have to do this. I can't settle until I do this now. And I spent some time just thinking in my head, how am I going to get clients? What am I going to do? How much do I need to earn every month to be able to, pay for bills and things like that? And thought, well, do you know what? I can do this. And yeah, next thing I knew, I had handed my notice in and I was director of a company.
But I think sometimes you can get too, like I said, the joys of being a business owner is quite, we've talked about this before, the conversation we had previously, where it is quite a lonely place. It's not for everybody, and it is, but then, so it does give you the freedom. It absolutely does give you a lot of things, and people see that side of things, but then at the same time, they don't realize how lonely it can be being a business owner, because there's just you, like, unless you're in a partnership or anything like that, where there is just you making those decisions. So it's not, it can be an absolutely amazing seat to be sat in, but then at the same time, it can be an uncomfortable seat to be sat in, and sleepless nights, and imposter syndrome that people talk about and all those sorts of things. You probably go through that and everything in between. I know I still go through imposter syndrome every day. I still look at this podcast thinking, why is some people listening to the podcast and talking about and listening to what we're talking about? But it's just something you have to learn to deal with. And is that something you've learned to deal with?
Yeah, I think I certainly have the sleepless nights, have I made the right decision about something? Thankfully, I have built up a good network. And actually, one of the people I still speak to about some of my decisions is my old boss. I've got huge, respect for him, and I'll call him and I'll say, "Oh God, what do you think to this? What do you think to that?" But yeah, it can be a lonely world, and I think it is a case of sort of building up a network around you and believing that listening to podcasts, building your knowledge is going to help. I feel like I'm talking to a celebrity today because I was listening to your podcast 6 months ago before we even spoke. Just gaining knowledge from you, gaining knowledge from other people in the industry, or not even people in the industry, gaining knowledge from people in marketing, things like that. Because I think it can be lonely when you're just sat with your laptop, doing a role. But when you're actually trying to expand your knowledge and, you meet people like we've met and, other people in the industry, other people who you could pick up the phone to, that's a really, really, really nice place to be. That's a really nice place to be. And that's actually, I think, when you actually feel like you're really achieving something as well.
No, definitely. And I think that just knowing that you've got somebody to speak to, and it's good to get various different opinions on things as well. So if you can, like you and I work with Ash Boland, who's like amazing on the marketing and podcasting stuff that he does. But then there's other people out there that are, in terms of like, if you want to work on Google Ads, there's people to speak to. If you want to do this, there is plenty of people out and that's the feedback I get from people coming out of the industry into the industry, that they're quite surprised that how many people are there who will just have a chat with no real ulterior motive, no hidden agenda, no bullshit, really. They will sort of talk about and trying to give the best advice they can. And I think that's the way that it should be. We've talked in the past about abundance mentality and things like that. It's like the thing is like you're in Harrogate. My firm works in not based in Harrogate, but we've got an advisor sort of, or Harrow. Sorry, I've not pronounced that. Harrogate.
Harrogate.
Yeah,
it could be whatever you want it to be.
Harrogate, where I come from. Yeah. I'm not going to go that low, but I think. But the thing is, it's like you and I have sort of started talking, and really, it's about that abundance mentality. It's about helping each other to then, because you should get a buzz from that, Fiona. I really do get a buzz from I get a buzz from doing the podcast about the guests that I get on and the sharing of things you've talked about. People will appreciate that and take things that you've sort of talked about there about being brave, changing the whole career from being in the police force to then becoming a mortgage broker to then owning your own firm. People will take stock in that, and people will take warmth in that and think, actually, I'm not doing this on my own. There are other people that are out there that have done it, and there are people that are out there that have done it and making it work. And it is connecting with those people and seeing those people that are happy to talk about things. And don't get me wrong, like we talked about before, you make some horrendous mistakes. I'm not saying you have, but I've made some horrendous mistakes in setting my firm up and doing what I've done. Absolutely. But would I have made those mistakes? Would I have learned from them if I was still sat in the corporate world being an employee? No, I wouldn't. Do I feel more developed? Do I feel more about myself in terms of my own learning and how I've developed as a person, as a business owner? Absolutely, because nobody can take that away from you. You can't be. You look at your firm right now, Fiona Conway Associates. Nobody can take that away because there is no Fiona Conway Associates without Fiona Conway. So that's how it is, and you've got to take stock on that. I think actually, yes, there is the blood, sweat, and tears and the sleepless nights that people don't see behind the scenes, but actually, you can't take away what you've done and achieved over the last, certainly for the period of coming into the industry, but then particularly more over the last 3 years of what you've learned as a business owner and what you've done wrong and the mistakes you made, but how you come out the other side from that?
Yeah, I think you've got to sit down at the end of every day and sum it up, don't you? And think, are there more highs and lows? For me, yes, definitely more highs and lows, in which case I'm going to keep going, keep learning, keep growing, keep expanding the business. I think when you get to the point where it's, I don't think I can cope with this today, and that happens, more often than not, then it's probably not a good time for you. But right now, every day, I'm excited. And it is an emotional roller coaster. I think being a mortgage broker is an emotional roller coaster anyway, because you get involved in helping people realize their dreams, buy their dream home. And then if anything goes wrong, I'm upset for them as well. So it is, being a mortgage broker and being a business owner together is an emotional roller coaster, I think, sometimes. But as long as there's more highs and lows, I think you're winning. And for me, yeah, almost all of the time I'm buzzing by what I do. But then sometimes I just think, oh gosh, really, this is hard work. Why did I do that? Why has this happened? Why has so-and-so not called me back? And then the next day you wake up, it's like, right, let's start again. We're okay today.
Yeah. You've definitely got to have that mindset, haven't you? That you've got to be that way, because you've got to, like you say, you feel as though if you're having more wins than losses, I don't know. Do you always feel as though you've got to move forward? Is that like important to you?
Absolutely. I think what I've learned not to do is dwell too much on the mistakes, kind of like you say, learn from them, brush yourself off, start again. Tomorrow's a new day. That day I'm like, right, okay, I'll finish work a bit early. I'll feel sorry for myself for a few hours, and then tomorrow I'm back on it again. And I think you have to be like that. I remember speaking to a potential new introducer who just sort of disappeared off the face of the earth, and I was absolutely wounded by it. Wounded. I thought, what's happened here? But then the next day it was forgotten about. Something else fantastic happened. So that wasn't important anymore. It's the way it is, isn't it?
It is. And I think it's just worrying about things you can control. It's not, people will be people. I think that's the sort of the mentality I have, which is, is that I'm expecting to have to use plan B, and then I'm pleasantly surprised when I don't have to use plan B. So for example, that introducer, if that was plan A and you got no plan B, then you don't, and you expect it to happen, you're on a far greater fall, because you've gone plan A's not worked and plan B's sort of not there, kind of thing, if that makes sense. Whereas I'm very much of, I've always got to use plan. I always have to have a plan B, and I'm always expected to use it. So when I don't need plan B, and that introducer comes on, or something exciting, something really moves forward, it's then a buzz rather than. And if it doesn't happen, you say, well, you knew that was going to happen anyway, Craig. So you've already dealt with the process in your mind of the disappointment, because you knew that was going to happen. So you just deal with the, like I say, you're going to have massive highs and massive lows. Being a business owner and a mortgage broker and a podcast host, fair play to you, because I don't do the mortgage broker anymore. I gave that up a couple of years ago because I just knew that I couldn't do it all. So I think it was the case of me of thinking I've got to focus on running the business. So hats off to you. And so there are massive bumps, but I think if you've got to have the mindset, the mentality that the massive bumps aren't that massive. And like you say, tomorrow there will be more bumps tomorrow, but just how you deal with them and how you reflect on them. And then tomorrow you're back on it and back on the treadmill to then create more exciting times for you and your business.
Yeah, I say to my clients all the time, if what the property market's like at the moment, there's not much for sale and a lot of people bidding on a property. And if a client's being outbid, I'll say, don't worry, it's not the house for you. There's another one around the corner. And I got to a point where I thought to myself, Fiona, you actually need to take this thought process on for yourself and business as well. So something goes wrong, or it's not what I expected it to be, or I'm a bit disappointed about something, I try to make myself believe, well, that opportunity wasn't right. There's going to be a better opportunity around the corner. And I have to say, looking back, I think I'm right, actually. I think that a lot of the new opportunities that produce themselves, I've actually thought, oh, actually, this is better than what I could have agreed to with the last thing a few months ago. So maybe it's a good thing it didn't work out. So yeah, you've got to have that mental strength, I think, just to get over the little hurdles and look to the future, because there's something better out there usually.
You are, and never before have I been a firm believer of everything happens for a reason. It was always something that, but then being a business owner, when things happen, you can be devastated about that, but then something else comes out the other side. It happens for the right reasons. You think actually, and it's good to reflect on those as well. Think about how you felt at the time. It's not that bad now. Like it was devastating, life changing, or whatever the case may be when you was in that situation. But having time to reflect, the world's turned again, and you then onto something else. It's like, well, it wasn't that bad after all, was it? And I think that's just it's interesting to hear your take on that, because it's not very often a conversation I have with many business owners when they think that kind of way. And I think you are thinking that a similar way to that, the way that I do with regards to happening for a reason. This will happen. We move on from it and sleep on it. I'm a big believer on sleeping on it. That is a certainty. And then tomorrow you're just back on it.
Yeah, absolutely. You've got to bounce back. If you're dealing with people, you can't be miserable. You can't be, oh, sorry, I don't really want to speak to you. I'm not in a very good mood. Can we make this short? It's like you've got to bounce back from it. You've got to buzz again, or people will see that.
No, that's it. You've got the clients, that first appointment that you're walking into or having, even though the world's just fallen apart 10 seconds before, that person that's got that first appointment with you right now is life changing for them. Like you said, they could have been building up for it for now. They could have got all the documents together. They could have everything prepared to go through. And if you just sort of dismiss it from the start because you've had something devastating 10 seconds ago, that's not, you're paying a disservice to the person that's sat in front of you.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of clients are, especially first time buyers, so excited to have that first appointment. Like you say, they've got all their stuff together. They're desperate to know how much they can borrow and how much it's going to cost them every month. And can't take that away from them.
No. And that's it. They're only going to get that feeling for the first time once they've sort of 2 years in and they've got the debt round and all the rest.
Paying it.
Yeah. It's slightly different, but you've got to take it while it's there.
Yeah.
So business owner, mortgage broker, and then just to add into the mix, podcasting. So what, why, where, how?
Again, not something I was going to do. But I knew that I was missing a trick. I knew that there was a space in social media for me that I hadn't put myself in. I've been very lucky with, existing clients recommending me, things like that when I started my business. And I had kind of just sort of not left the office really. I did some networking. That's not completely true. I did some networking. I love networking in my sort of local area. But I thought, right, okay, this needs to I need to transfer this on social media. Started listening to podcasts, thinking of who I might like to work with. And good old Ash Borland came up. So I arranged a meeting with him and I said, look, I need to get into the social media space. I talked to him about goals, what I wanted to achieve, told him I love networking, working with other businesses. Didn't really want to talk about interest rates and, fixed rate mortgage, things like that. No one wants to hear that. So he said, I know exactly what you're going to do. You're going to host a podcast. I was like, really? And I did it. I thought, with his help, I can do this, definitely. And got together a list of people that I wanted to get involved in it, and started Yorkshire Property Partners.
Wow, so we need to give it a bit of plug. We've given Ash enough plugs there, so we need to give your podcast a bit of a plug. So looking at the podcast, obviously nobody wants to hear talk about interest rates and all the boring things to do with mortgage services. So what's the podcast about, and really how did you come up with that kind of topic, shall we say?
So, like I said, one of the things I love doing is networking and speaking to other businesses. And I think I live in Harrogate, which is, a great area, lots of high value properties, lots of really good, well-established, respectable businesses. And I thought, I need to get to know these businesses better, and have more of a sort of local presence. I realised that a lot of clients I was dealing with were a little bit more further afield, and I just wanted to make it a little bit more local and personable, really. So that's the reason why I did it. I thought this is a way for me to get into social media without talking about a mortgage, which I didn't want to do. People are really interested in property, the property market. So I thought, right, let's get experts together to talk about what's happening right now in the property market, because it's a bit of a strange time. So I thought, well, let's get some hints and tips together from, estate agents, from surveyors, from builders, people who can give really good tips to clients. So that's why I started it, really. It's again, just to give some advice, really.
Which, like I say, it's easy to get into the mortgage space, being a mortgage business owner, and thinking, well, just like talking about normal things within the mortgage world, but as always, it's nobody wants to talk about mortgages. Nobody wants a mortgage. Nobody ever wants to sit and go, yeah, I'm really pleased that I'm 80, 160, 240, whatever the figure is, in debt right now. Nobody wants that. What they want is what you're talking about, which is what the end product looks like. So let's not talk about mortgages. Let's build rapport. Let's talk about the end product, which is what people are more, I'm not saying more interesting, because people outside the mortgage industry are interested in mortgages, but it's more about the property industry. So that's what a great way to talk about more interesting topic and about property than interest rates and SVRs and the rest of it.
Yeah, like you say, nobody wants a mortgage. They want that dream home. Nobody wants some life insurance to go with it. But, all these things help you, get your dream home and then stay in it, hopefully. Nobody wants to pay for them, but it gives you that beautiful place where you want to live, where you feel comfortable, where you can relax after a busy day. So yeah, like you say, it's building that picture of, well, these costs, but actually what you get from them in the end, and the benefit of having a nice home where you can relax at the end of the day is why we do it.
And I think the thing is, where you're using it to network as well, which is a great thing. Like, what a great way to get local. You very much focus on local community, which is great. And getting those people onto the podcast who normally wouldn't have or think about being on a podcast, getting those people on. So for you, it's good at networking and building your brand up as well, in terms of from that point of view.
Absolutely. Yeah. This is definitely something that is helping me in my business. But I wanted it to be something that's going to help other businesses, or, get other businesses more involved in social media, because everyone I'm speaking to, well, not most people, are saying, oh, yeah, we need to do more social media. We need to do more social media. So I think as well, when you're relying on other people, you have to be accountable. So I didn't want to, or say to you today, I'm sorry, I've decided I'm not doing it, because you're expecting me to turn up. When you're just posting things on Instagram, you can think, oh, I'm too busy. I won't do it today. But when someone else is expecting you to turn up, you don't let them down. So I think, getting other people involved with your social media as well makes you stick to it. And I send a video out or a podcast out every other Tuesday, and people are waiting for me to do that. These companies are expecting it. So I can't let people down. If I was just posting a fixed rate mortgage thing on Instagram, I might decide not to do it. Yeah. So it's a great way of really being accountable and continuing as well, because people are expecting you to do it.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's it. You've got to do it from the perspective of the people that are listening to the podcast and expecting, they know when it comes out, they know when they should be downloading it, they're expected to come out to think about who's the guest this week, or people who are the guest this week. Then when's it coming out, Craig? When am I on the podcast? Don't worry, you're gonna get tagged in. Don't worry, you're gonna get and all the rest. But it does, like you say, it does make it happen. I think one of the things as well, what I like is that, like my podcast diary, when people are booking onto the podcast, they book it. It's not me saying, right, Fiona, when we're going to do this. Oh yeah, it's Tuesday at 2:00 or anything like that. The ball's in sort of like the guest call with regard to booking onto the podcast. But then that forces me to say, well, you've got to drop everything. Because if I put something in my diary, you're thinking, oh, do you know what, right now, the world's ended. I could do without this. Yeah, I'll just move it on. I'll do it tomorrow. Whereas, like you say, if like you've taken the time, you booked on the podcast today at this time, then I've got no option. There's no choice from my point of view to either do this or not. I'm doing it, and you've got to go right. It doesn't matter what's going on or what's going on. You're ready for this podcast recording right now, Greg. You've got to give it the due care and attention that it deserves. So I think it's good that way, that it does generate content. It does help with your brand, and it just helps you sort of with who Fiona Conway is in the Harrogate space as well.
Yeah, I think so. And that is definitely something that I wanted to achieve. I think especially with lockdown, I went from doing quite a lot of networking to everything went on Zoom, didn't it? So we tried that, but I think I lasted a few Zoom calls, with like 12 people on the screen and everyone cutting out. And I thought, no. And it's great to be getting back out there again now. But again, I said, right, I want to be more visible on social media and, hit a wider market as well. So yeah, that's really why I did it. And I had no idea what I was going to do. And then, it was just one meeting where it just came to me, and I'm quite an emotions person. If I feel something, I'll do it. And when I got my head around it, I got very, very excited about it and thought, this is something I can do. This is something I will stick to. This is it. Yes, this is what it will be.
What is clear from me talking to you, Fiona, is that you're excited about everything that you're doing. I think that's you're excited about the clients you're helping. You're excited about being a business owner. You're excited about the podcast, and that's how it should be. Yes, don't get me wrong. Like, you have days, I have days. We all have the days where you sat there in the day going, why am I doing this? What, really seriously, what have I done? Yeah. Why have I done this kind of thing? But like you say, you wake up tomorrow and it's back on it, and you're back achieving what you want to achieve. So I think that's the thing with it. You are moving forward, but you are embracing everything, all the challenges that this face, and you're being brave and thinking, well, let's do a podcast. Yeah, let's set my firm up. Yes, let's be a mortgage broker working in reverse. Do you know what I mean? So like, you've gone through all those things over a number of years. So what's next? Is there anything that's next on the agenda for Fiona?
Oh gosh, a holiday in June, which is needed. I'm very excited about that. But yeah, I think just expanding the business now, potentially getting some more advisors on board, and just keeping going with being known in the local area, but also sort of nationwide as well. I think that's they are sort of the achievable goals for the company for the next couple of years.
Excellent. Growth. Moving forward, growth.
I think so. Yeah. Let's do it. Fiona,
Is there anything that we've not talked about that you want to talk about? Anything else you've got going on with I think you sound like you've got plenty going on already, but is there anything else to throw into the mix?
No, I think we've covered almost everything there. I think, we've done a really good job. So that's everything from me. Thank you.
Good. And I have to ask you one final question. I still get it wrong. What's it like? Is it easier sat over there, or is it easier sat here?
No, it's easier sat here. Definitely easier sat here. People can talk about themselves, can't they? It's not too difficult to do. Yeah.
Good. I'm glad you said that, because that's exactly how I felt on every other podcast that I've been on. So thank you. Thanks for agreeing with me on that one. I appreciate it.
Well, thanks for inviting me on. It's been fantastic. Like I say, it's like being on the celebrities podcast, because I've been following you for a long time.
Yeah, no, thanks for that feedback, Fiona. I really do appreciate it. Your podcast, you've got plenty going on. You've got plenty of growth with the right attitude and your mindset and where you're going. So you know that you will achieve what you want to achieve, which is a massive thing. And then look at what you've achieved over the last 9 years or so, like where you are now and where it's going. You've got. I'm not a person that does. I reflect, but very quickly reflect, and then move on to the next thing. So I don't dwell on the past or anything like that. And it sounds like you're very similar in that kind of way, that you're always moving forward. So you can't worry too much about the past, and you don't want to take any accolade or anything like that for the past, because you've always got new things to achieve.
Yeah, I agree with that, and it's just like I say, growing knowledge as well. It's exciting. It's exciting because then you can think of the next thing that you want to achieve in your plan. So yeah, I love all that.
Apart from a cliche of watch this space, I'm excited about seeing what happens with Fiona Conway Associates and how the podcast grows and how the business grows. So I am excited to sort of see how these things go. And yeah, Fiona, I really do appreciate your time. Really do appreciate you sharing a very honest sort of experience of your journey. I felt as though I was part of that journey, listening to you talk about what you've achieved, because obviously and that's important from our listeners' point of view and subscribers, that they do feel getting on an honest account of and feel part of what you've achieved, which clearly people do. And that's why people listen to podcasts as well. So Fiona, thank you so much for your time.
Pleasure. Thank you very much for having me.
And hopefully we're going to get you, when you've got your celebrity star status of your podcast and the rest of it, then we'll get you back on and let's hear more about where Fiona Conway is going for the future.
Absolutely. I'd love to. Thank you.